improving our business outcome, reducing end-user fatigue, speeding up time to value. Well, you go to find out what quicker time to value means. Maximize investment in Pega. Businesses are interested in quicker time to value. Constellation configuration-based development paradigm in apps to drastically reduce application development time compared to traditional development in Dev Studio. Developers simply configure the outcome they need, and Constellation generate the appropriate UI for all channels. That's the theory, right? Now, when things break, who got to fix it? The developer has to fix it. Now, here's what Pega says about for developer. He said decrease development time. That is not accurate. In Pega versions, if I want to speak specifically to Pega version 23, it doesn't really decrease the development time. Certainly you get some rule generated, but you have to spend a lot of time finding the rules, right? And most of the developers don't have the time to upscale to the higher version. So most of the developers are still thinking in the way of traditional development or section-based views, right? So some of that time needs to be proven. It requires less in-depth knowledge. Okay, you have to have some knowledge about how to manage the views when things break. Focusing on business logic. Certainly a little bit faster because it is prescribed, so you'll worry less about the customization of the section, but you're more about what data needs to go away, right? On that prospect, it's a little bit more current. Okay, so another thing that I run across when going through this is the exploration data. Most UX guys don't quite understand it, therefore they don't quite use it in their design. But another advantage that you get in Constellation is the ability to explore data, right? What is explore data? There's this thing called insight. What is an insight? Insight is basically just some of the queries that you save, right? You have an explore landing page data, which is available only in Constellation. You can see that here being called out. Explore data uses a view-based landing page and is the preferred data exploration tool for application chat that use the Constellation design system. The reason I mentioned that here is in some of the conversation on LinkedIn, some people or some LSAs were having a hard time figuring out what is the value added of using Constellation. And this is effectively one use case because that capability is only available in Constellation. Don't hear me wrong. You can certainly add it in traditional UI if you need it, right? Because there's this example here where you can integrate a piece of Constellation inside traditional, parallel along traditional development, right? Which will allow you to be able to, let me see, I think I have here. Constellation traditional development, right? This will be for Constellation in version 25, how you could have it embedded a little bit and be able to leverage that inside but still maintain most of your traditional application intent. So that's the kind of what we used to be like the hybrid mode, but the reverse is not true. So you have something in traditional development, you cannot add that in Constellation because the view-based, the structure of the Constellation ecosystem will not support you having your stack a traditional or UI Kit base. So I thought this would be a good post, so I can just add it here, and that's something to look into for them. So over here, you typically make a queries, and you can save your queries as inside. Basically, the view looks like this, and then you kind of design the view you want to be able to drill down the data. It's really useful, especially for drilling down on the data, right? You can have it in Constellations, or you can also have in UI Kit by building what we call a hybrid by adding Constellation inside your traditional development, right? Which will lead you having a view similar to this one, where you can have like a Constellation case. Let's zoom a little bit here. You have a Constellation case, and you can also have your traditional case both in the same view, right? That's what the hybrid scenario will look like for you. Now, drilling a little bit more on the inside, right? What can you do? You can basically configure more of what your chart's going to look like. You can decide what you see on x-axis, y-axis. You have the promoted filters here, which allow you to set up predefined filters. Outside of the predefined filters that you get, you also have the chart, right? You can basically specify how you want to set up the chart to come up. You want to have split tooltip, not split tooltip, particular axis, what you want to see on the different axis. That capability of drilling down the data, saving some queries, if you have some queries that you typically use, looking into the data, is one of the capabilities that you get when you are on a constellation, or when you embed a constellation inside your traditional development. But again, it's not for everybody. Okay, so another thing that is particular to constellation that I've seen on government project, in healthcare project, and in finance project is sometimes you have those cascaded structures where one selection drive another list, which drive another table, right? Most of the time, UX guys are not technical, and some of the LSA guys are not up to date. But when going through this, I found this feature that I think could really help some of the guys out there. For example, this will be faster implemented in Constellation versus if it was implemented in traditional section-based UI, because you have to configure each of the parameter, the data page coming in, what happened when you click actions. This component, which I found to be very interesting, is cascading drop-down list, right? So if I come here, this cascading drop-down list is set up in a way where you have a first drop-down. When you select, it gives you a pass in the parameter to open another drop-down which you, and this is the way you would actually configure it, right? You have that first data page which has a list, and you select the field which is driving the next list. So in this scenario, for example, you're passing the SID security field, and because it's using you're not doing it in App Studio, you're just selecting in App Studio, like you select the lookup industry, the local industry list will take in the SID field as a parameter and will load the list of the next table. So imagine I have two level of table. One first level is showing maybe list of parent, and when you select the list of parent, it has down another list of kid, which now the cascading drop down, this scenario, cascading drop down value in this scenario will give you a list of different parent. When you select the parent, that selection passing the name of the parent as a parameter to give you the list of the different children and their families. So it's not going to be just a list that you're getting, but you're getting more. You're passing the parameter of the parent to be able to get another table from which you can select. I hope this keep adding on the item that we see in Constellation that are not naturally available inside section-based UIs on as features that I see useful in healthcare, government, and finance, not to say banking. So the third and final element of this three top Constellation only benefit is the introduction of the data relationship field, right? I was on a project recently where most of the role not having the time to upskill really did not know when to use what, and I found this could be useful in solving that problem. You can see here the use case for embedded data, the use case for data reference, the use case for case referencing queries. The simple rule of thumb is if you gotta get input from the user, you typically want to use embedded data. If you are thinking about reusing data object from outside the case, you probably want to set up as a data reference. Now, if you're thinking about being in a case and having a external case, like if you're in an inbound phone call or outbound phone call, and you want to use some maybe general inquiry case type, then that scenario you're going to be referencing more of like case reference, right? It's going to be useful. Stay blessed.